2022! Happy New Year, everybody! Oh my goodness, that went by kind of quickly. Good riddance, 2021. We are in a brand new year, and you are 1 second away from making any change you want in your life. 1 second away, one conversation, one moment away. And today, on this first day of 2022, Happy New Year, by the way. Happy New Year, wherever you are in the world. We hope you had a wonderful time last night with your family and your friends. Today, we're going to talk about how to make this a good year. All about New Year's resolutions. I'm going to go straight to it and bring in one of my favorite people, a better person to start this New Year's with.
Hi.
Yes. June.
Hi, Shali, June. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Lovely. Happy New Year. Did you get the donuts for Shaden?
I did. He wanted a donut this morning. I said, you know what the heck? I know being healthy is on my list of things to do for 2022, but we'll have a little donut. We'll start tomorrow.
There we go. Oh, that's what we're going to talk about. You know what? Sometimes we shouldn't postpone pleasure. Right?
Oh, yes. Okay.
Sometimes pleasure shouldn't be postponed. We should just enjoy it. Like those donuts, our beautiful Shaden wants to have. So donuts he shall have.
Donuts he shall have on 2022. I'm going to turn off the comments in just a minute, but I wanted to get everybody in here and say good morning and Happy New Year to everybody. The first day of a brand new year. And I'll turn these off in just a moment. I want to give everybody a chance to say hello and good morning to each other. This is the day, Dr. Shaheen, most people wake up and we try to do things a little bit differently, right? We reflect on the past year, what worked, what didn't work, what lessons did we learn, and what do we want to do different in 2022, right? But yes, it's also a conversation to have, because hands up if you make all these resolutions and then like 3 weeks later, you're like, I'm still eating those donuts.
Yeah, I know. We're all guilty. We're all guilty. I can see all kinds of hands up all over the globe. Hands up everywhere. It's true, Shali, but it is, this is by far, I think, one of the most magical, mystical, just special times. The holiday period, the Christmas season, the New Year season. And I think one of the reasons is, and of course, Nowruz for us has a very special, and how far are we from Nowruz? We're almost there, huh?
Yes, we're a little 2.5 months away. We're almost there.
Approaching fast. But, the holiday season, I think Christmas and New Year's, there's so many people around the world who celebrate these festivities, who get involved in these festivities, Christian countries, non-Christian countries. Even Dubai, United Arab Emirates, you should see the Christmas decorations. They go all out. I mean, there's so much emphasis put on this kind of unity in diversity. It brings people together in such a special, magical way. I think it's a wonderful time of year. But of course, you and I are incredibly conscientious. We're very mindful of what we have all been through, in 2021. We have gone through lots of different things that we're going to talk about here together, not addressing those or not being aware of those challenges that we've all experienced would seem, our conversation would almost be incomplete, or would be very inconsiderate if we didn't take into consideration, all the difficulties that we've gone through. But we'll park that for a second and we'll talk about occasions and rituals for a minute, right? Okay. This idea of engaging in some sort of exercise to reflect on the past year and shape behavior for the next year. You know, it dates back to more than 4,000 years, to the ancient Babylonians, through Caesar's Rome and several European and American traditions. And people have been doing this, marking the new year with these sort of promises and commitments that they make for a very long time. And in fact, I think one of the first times we heard the term New Year's resolution being used was in a Boston newspaper way back in 1813.
Wow.
So we've been doing this for quite a long time. And now, why is this important? Why is, have we closed the comments box? Okay,
Yes.
Let me put this down here and refresh this so that I couldn't see them. All righty, let me see. Okay.
Yep.
There, are we okay now? Yeah. And so what this means is that we have tons of data from a very long time of people who have been making these commitments and resolutions about what's going right, what's not going right, how do we do it, how can we better set goals, how can we better think about what it is that we would like to achieve in terms of these changes or transformations that we'd like to engage in. But you know, Shirley, you and I talk about learning and development throughout the year. We talk about self-development and self-improvement, self-awareness throughout the year. And even though technically, literally, it is the time right now for New Year's resolutions, to set New Year's, technically, we know that, right? But because it's this dawn of 2022, and we have to say goodbye to this super tough year where we've experienced incredible ups and downs, transformation and loss to different degrees. We have all had to learn to adapt and to be agile and to adjust to so many changes. So in a way, Shali, we've been doing New Year's resolutions for close to 2 years now, sometimes on a weekly basis.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm kind of tired of it.
I know. Yes, you and the whole world, right? We're exhausted. We're exhausted, aren't we? So what we're going to do today, we're not going to focus on more of such, you know, pressures. We're
Okay.
not to start talking about, come on, what are your New Year's resolution? New year, new you. No, we really want to look at what we've been through, what we've achieved together.
We're going to go there?
We're going to go there. We're going to go there. Will you come with me?
You know, I'll go anywhere you go. I will follow. Even if it's going to make me feel a little uncomfortable, you know I'm going to follow you.
I know, you're so good. Absolutely. And in fact, you're the inspiration to many of these conversations because you're so open and you're so receptive to all that we need to cover and connect with. So we need to go there. We need to look at in what way, what have we had to adjust to? What have we learned from that adjustment and adaptation with the aim to celebrate all that we have already achieved? Wouldn't it be great to have a New Year's resolution discussion without necessarily focusing on what is it that you need to improve upon, but really to discuss what is it that you've already achieved?
Oh, I like that. That's
you like
nice.
that?
That's nice. That's good.
So before it gets good, before the dessert comes along, we
Okay.
need to have appetizer and we need to have the main dish.
Oh gosh.
Okay?
Okay.
There might be some vegetables and salad and, you know, some ingredients in there that may not be as tasty as we want. But
okay. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay. So, and I want you to join me at any point to add to this. What I want to start talking about is what have we had to adapt to and adjust to as a way to highlight and celebrate everything that we have achieved. So we've had to manage and monitor constant anxiety, whether we are, right, aware of it, whether it was generalized, whether it's unconscious. And let me put that into examples and add to them, please, Shali.
Okay.
And think about, what am I wearing? Am I sitting around all day in my pajamas, or do I need to get dressed? Am I going to work, or am I working from home? How many days do I have to go to work? How many days do I have to stay at home? Am I losing weight as a result of staying home and in lockdown? Am I gaining weight? Should I resign from my work, or am I afraid to resign from my work, and should I stay in my job? And then all this sort of philosophical and existential stress, Shali, about what does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be in lockdown? What does it mean to be social distancing? What does it mean to be emotionally distancing? What does it mean to lose loved ones? I can't tell you the number of conversations I've had with parents, with family and friends recently who say, you know, we weren't ready to have the conversation with our children about death. We prepared. And so many children, as a result of watching news, I mean, whenever in history have we had to look at a countdown,
Oh,
right, of how many people have died? Children going up to their parents and saying, Mommy, how many people died today? And the anxiety of, what do I say to my child? How do I explain this to them? Do I get into the discussion of heaven and hell? Do I, you know, explain to them that I have different beliefs? And how do we even begin to unpack that, right? So this idea of, what does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to die? What happens? And it's good, you know, it's good to engage some time to think about that. From a Stoic perspective, they say, Stoicism, they believe we don't spend enough time thinking about death, Shali, that we
yeah,
avoid, you
very.
know, we don't want to talk about it. We want to bury this idea away. When you bring up the conversation, everyone says, no, 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 I don't want to. And therefore, because we deny it and we repress it, we're rarely prepared for these conversations. So it's good to talk about it, to think about it, but not to the extent that we've had to do so in the last, 2 years. Another consequence of our adaptation has been the grieving process that we've gone through. Now, some people have had to grieve the loss of family members. People have had to grieve the loss of time. I know people who say, you know, my birthday's coming up. I'm chronologically supposed to be turning 40, but I'm not counting the last 2 years. So in fact, I'm actually turning 38, not 40. You know, so this notion of time and
Yeah.
where did time go, and notion loss of routine, loss of, you know, I usually go to the gym, but now I'm not able to go to the gym. Loss of community, milestone, and celebration. And there's a beautiful book called The Myth of Closure: Ambiguous Loss in a Time of Pandemic and Change. This is an author, her name is Pauline Boss, and she's written about this idea of loss in time and change. And she calls this ambiguous loss. The term that she uses to describe this is, sometimes you may not have lost a loved one, but the other things that we have lost as a result of the pandemic and have had to adjust and adapt to that loss is this ambiguous, lingering loss that we may not be able to put our finger on. Was there anything specific for you, Shal, that you had to kind of work through, a loss that is not customary, or something that isn't usual, but maybe more due to the pandemic? I mean, the one I'm thinking of, for me, it was really a loss of travel. like loss of
That's a
movement.
good one. That's a really good one. Loss of moving,
Yeah,
loss of being around people, touching people, hugging people, connecting with people. Yes, I agree.
loss of connection. Like you said, that kind of tactileness. It's huge. And then, feeling awkward or less connected with loved ones. Decision fatigue is a big one. Can you imagine? We've had to adapt to, should I go out tonight? Maybe I shouldn't go out.
Oh,
People have been vaccinated. Have they not been vaccinated? Maybe I shouldn't go. Will I feel left out if I don't go? I mean, isn't it exhausting?
exhausting. Exhausting. Like I'm sometimes wonder when will the day come where we don't have this going on just to go out to dinner.
Before it used to be, where should we go for dinner? And what am I,
What am I gonna wear? What am I gonna eat?
you know, what happened? What happened to those days? So lots of things that we're having to reevaluate from our personal and professional lives. And so we've already gone through a lot. And, we have to celebrate the fact that we've had to be agile and adapt to varying degrees. But this adaptation, Shirley, hasn't come without a consequence. I want you to pay attention to news reports and stories from our family and friends.
Okay.
Think about angry passengers on airlines.
Oh.
The psychology of how people are reacting as a result,
Oh.
their freedom of movement being taken away, their touch and their hugging, that you haven't been able to engage in. There's conflict. There's chaos.
When you talk about the news and you say this, Dr. Shaim, I remember telling my co-anchor, leaning over one particular morning, and it was story after story after story of people that were just so angry. And I looked at him and I said, what is going on? What is going on? And I think all of us in our lives, whether we're watching it from the outside or maybe we've noticed it within our own family and our friends and people who typically don't behave in a certain way, they're really angry.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're angry because we're in threat state. You see, we're in threat state, and stuff that we normally wouldn't have to deal with, normally haven't surfaced. We've been able to rationalize it or to intellectualize it or to deal with it or even bury it.
Yeah.
When we're in threat state, everything comes forth to
Oh.
surface, right? And so the smallest trigger, the smallest point in which we are angered or we become sad or emotional, our reactions actually, the problem is, we have reactions and not responses. We don't take the time to design a response,
That's a good one. I need to write that down.
right?
We have reactions, not responses.
Because we're in threat states, because we're in this constant lingering, generalized anxiety because of this ambiguous loss and sadness that we're experiencing the whole time. And a friend of mine said to me, I feel like I'm in some sort of bad horror movie in which you're sitting at the edge of your seat and waiting for the next bad event to happen.
Yes. Yes. Please tell me this is going to end soon because I'm like starting to lose my mind.
I know. It is. It really is. It really is. We've got to hang in there. We have to trust science. We have to trust history. We have to, looking at past patterns of pandemics, we're science and technologically so much better today than we have ever been when these things have happened in the past. So we've got to, Shali, there is at this point, in this experience that we're all going through collectively, one can choose a personal narrative or a community narrative. And the personal narrative says, why me? I'm tired. I can't take this anymore. I don't want to oblige. I don't want to agree to the rules and the regulations. That's a personal narrative. And we all on the continuum, when we have bad days, we might want to stay there because we're tired and we're wounded and we're exhausted. But when you have a community narrative or perspective, you realize that this is bigger than me. It's less about the ego and more about the ecology. So let's focus on the eco and not the ego. Let's focus on ecology and to try and work together to, you know, find solutions sooner, to be able to get vaccinated faster, hopefully, you know, so that people can not only protect themselves, but also others. And you and I never get into any kind of political debate. We respect everyone's opinions and ideas about how they feel in terms of the science and in terms of procedures and what's out there. But really, one should think about, if I were to embrace a more of a community perspective, a collective perspective, what could I do to serve me and my community better in the long run? So this is the kind of threat state that we're in. And what did you say was really good? You said we're having reactions. Yes, we're having reactions.
You said we're having reactions, not responses. I
Right.
love that.
Okay, exactly. Let's put a earmark on that, because that's important. We're going to come back to that. So we decided to acknowledge this, and you know, we don't want to ignore the uniqueness of this new year and the kind of transition that we're getting into. But like everything else in life, you know, this pandemic has asked us to reevaluate and to re-examine the way we work, the way we spend time with our family, the way we exercise. Why not reevaluate New Year's resolutions as well, right? Let's look at what's good about them, and let's look at what can be redesigned about them so that we can do them better. You said at the beginning of this discussion, you said, why is it that we make all these kinds of promises
Yes.
only to abandon them a couple of weeks into the new year? Well, let me tell you what research says.
Okay.
Apparently, New Year's resolutions get packed away with the rest of the season's decorations and festivities about 6 weeks after people make their New Year's resolutions. 80% of them will break them, or they may not even remember what they were.
Oh man. So why are we making them?
Why are we making them? Why are we making them? Why? And think about this. Imagine how frustrating it is, and not worse than frustrating, how demotivating and how damaging it is for our self-esteem, for our confidence, for the fact that we feel like we failed already. I mean, 6 weeks into the new year, and we weren't able to stick to this commitment and this sort of project or this resolution that we had decided on. It can be very damaging. We start doubting ourselves, our willpower, our capacity to bring about positive adjustments. So you and I want to set people up to succeed.
Yes.
Right? Let's get with this useless methodology of waking up on the 31st or on the 1st, 2nd, and saying, that's it. I'm going to transform my life. New year, new me.
New year, new me. I'm not going to eat donuts anymore. I'm going to lose 10 pounds. I'm going to spend more time with my family and my kids. Like the typical ones that we keep telling each other every single year.
Yeah.
But we got to do it in a different way, right? We got to do it in a different way.
Agreed. We've got to do it in a different way. Just look at your discourse right now, the terminology that you just used. You said, I want to lose, and I want to spend more. If I tease out those two phrases, aren't they counter to intuitive to everything that we usually try to do in our lives? We don't want to lose. We always want to gain, right? So even the way we frame having
Oh,
better, healthier lifestyle, losing weight, the brain immediately hangs on to the word loss and may not approach that task in the same way as if you turn that around and say, you know what, I don't want to lose anything. I want to gain a new lifestyle. I want to gain new
this
things.
is so good.
Right?
Oh my word, I never thought about it that way.
Lose weight. What does that mean? Lose. We don't want to lose. We never want to lose. Lose means you failed. The brain, think about the thousands of folders we have in our brain that correlates loss with failure. So that's the number one obstacle. The language that we use, Shelly, that you used is, I want to spend more time with, right? Spending after New Year's is counterintuitive. We want to save usually in the new year.
Okay.
So rather than spend, we might change that, I want to engage in activities with my loved ones that are meaningful and that bring us closer to one another.
Dr. Shahid, this is like life bulb moments.
This is a good one. I remember the first time I heard it. It was transformative for me, because language matters.
Oh my gosh, I'm writing this down. I gotta tell you, for many years of my life, many years, I struggled with weight. I mean, there was a one point of my life that I was about 60 pounds more than I am right now. And it was always this narrative in my head that when you say this, I'm like, oh, I get, because there's so many things that are happening so psychologically. Because during that
Correct.
time, and even today, many people, one of the biggest New Year's resolutions, people always say they want a healthier lifestyle. They want to
Right.
exercise more, right? That's
Yeah.
one of the top ones.
Yeah. Right.
But the brain psychs us out in so many ways. We get on the treadmill, we're like, okay, we're done, we're tired. Okay,
Yeah.
not today, tomorrow.
Exactly.
It's this, it's all this, right?
It's all up there. And how you frame it and what you tell yourself. And one of the so let's look at what the issues are with New Year. So that was an example that you so beautifully set me up to be able to tease out. And the more we're conscientious and mindful of the language that we use, the terminology that we use, the more we're setting ourselves up to succeed. So 3 reasons we need to change the way we approach New Year's resolutions. Okay. Why are they problematic? Well, the first reason New Year's resolutions are problematic, because they are seen as, they prime us and they permit us to behave badly about 6 to 8 weeks before the New Year season.
That's true.
Okay, so the brain is constantly telling you, don't worry, New Year's resolution, eat all you want, drink all you want, behave badly, do whatever you want to do. And there's this sort of purgatory period of time in which we are given, or we give ourselves unconsciously, this permission to engage in what we at that point may understand or label as pleasurable moments, only to be punished through these New Year's.
Wow.
And it's almost this sort of postponed gratification of, now that you have behaved badly and that you've done everything that you wanted to do, New Year's resolution, it's time for you to behave better, to eat better, to exercise. So if we unconsciously click these, or if we process them as punishments, who would want to get punished?
I'm just wondering where you were like 20 years ago in my life. I could have really used you back then. I'll take you now. I got 20 more years that I'm going to take these lessons and walk through the rest of my life with these. But my goodness, I've never, ever, ever considered looking at it that way. And now so much of my life is running through my head and it's making sense.
Right. When in fact, you know, why should we ever lose that sentiment of balance in our lives simply because it's a different time of the year, simply because, you know, we can have fun and enjoy, but this idea of fasting and feasting is counterintuitive and counterproductive to well-being. The body needs balance. When the brain, heart, soul, body is in sync with one another, it's in sync when there's balance and connectivity with the different dimensions and the different elements. When you pull it out of whack and then punish it for being out of whack, it's, of course, after 6 weeks you're going to say, okay, time out, over. I don't want to more, and I want to go back to, you know, normalizing my activities, right? So let's get away from this idea of do whatever you want and then get punished later, because nobody likes punishments and we're not going to stick to it. Okay?
Okay.
That's reason number one. Reason number two. Another reason why New Year's resolutions don't work.
Why?
Is because they whisper to us that we're flawed and we're fractured in a certain way, rather than recognizing and acknowledging all the ways that we're whole and resourceful and beautiful and enough and capable and accomplished. Resolutions never invite you to reflect on your previous year and to celebrate everything that you have achieved. It's always about, you know, make a checklist of all the ways you're flawed and fractured and everything that you need to change. But why? Right?
True. It's very true.
And usually the way that it's formulated, you know, be more productive, exercise more, lose more weight, eat less. It's always as a way of criticizing who we are and living to some sort of ambiguous standard by they. You know, they say it's important to have 1,000 steps every day. Who's they? I want to know, who is this invisible committee of experts who live somewhere in the cloud, who dictate people's opinions and forget about them.
Oh, that was good. Who's they?
Who are they? I'm yet to find, because you know what, Shelly? If you do a quick search on Google about what's correct to do, you're going to have a billion gazillion varied opinions and ideas of some people saying when you're trying to lose fat, don't work. Oh no, you should work out a lot when you're trying to. We are bombarded with contradictory information from them that throw us into this tsunami, this tornado of confusion. So you know what? 6 weeks into the new year, we can't find them. Phone and call. Who can I speak to who's the expert in this? This is not working. Them. Can you please try and guide me better? Because what
gosh,
isn't working. And I'm more flawed now. And I'm more fractured because guess what? I failed again.
Wow, Dr. Shaheem, this is like so big right now. I don't know if everybody... can I just turn the comments on for one moment? Because I want to see if this is turning on this as it's doing for me right now.
Sure, absolutely.
in my 40s, I have never, in all like my search of answers and learning about life, this is like such a simple concept, and I'm asking myself, why did you not explore this before? And we set ourselves up for New Year's resolutions every year. Take out a piece of paper, write them down. You know, this is this year I'm gonna do this. And you're right. It's like you're setting yourself up. All the things that you have failed at, that you're not good at,
Right.
and we're starting the year off that way.
Correct. Exactly. And you know, what I'm trying to say is ultimately that there is no one size fits all. What we have to do is, you know, what we've been talking about all year together, Shali, when you have a deep and nuanced understanding of yourself, your self-awareness, then you tailor make, you create a bespoke solution for you, because you are whole and resourceful, and you are not fractured, and you're not, you know, you're not flawed. And stop following what they say. It's important what makes you feel good and the solutions that you come up with. Now, I don't see the, let me see if I can.
I turned on the comments, and I think it's so delayed because so many people are commenting. It was showing up as people who were just starting to follow. So it's a little bit of a lag.
I see.
You know, there are people who are asking questions like a Nilufar, and you'll get to this in here, but just so I can read a few, I don't want to pop them up on the screen.
Okay.
And it was a question that I want to ask is like, how do you improve the positive thinking though? And New Year's resolutions, Shadi says, are about achieving a personal goal, don't you think? What do you say to that? If that's what your goal is to lose weight,
Yeah.
or you want to spend time with your family, how do you do that then effectively?
Okay. So let me go to our third reason why we need to be careful about New Year's resolutions, and that will answer their question.
Okay.
Okay. So remember, the first one we said is because it's problematic because we set, you know, we behave badly and then we punish ourselves.
Right.
And it doesn't work. The second one we said is because it's mostly about us being flawed and fractured, and we don't have a holistic or balanced view of who we are and what we've achieved. Now, the third reason why we need to change our approach to New Year's resolutions is because usually we set goals that are extrinsic and not intrinsic goals. Okay? The difference between extrinsic goals and intrinsic goals. What is the main difference? Okay. So extrinsic goals are about external things that we want to change, such as our, you know, body, such as gaining more material wealth, such as, you know, things to do with, if we're focusing on power, physical appearance, materialism. These are extrinsic goals, okay, that people aspire towards. But Dr. Richard Ryan, who's a professor at the Institute of Positive Psychology and Education, he says on the intrinsic side, if you focus on community, affiliations, love, passion, relationship, and personal growth, that's when you set yourself up to succeed. When you naturally satisfy your basic psychological intrinsic goals, then you can eventually layer and work towards achieving your other goals. So, for example, if my extrinsic goal is to get a promotion at work, Shali,
Okay.
and everything I need to do to be able to, you know, work harder, be more productive, perform better, but I'm not sure why I'm doing this. What value of mine is being met or is being satisfied? Is it my value of ambition? Is it my value of personal growth? And once I understand what value of mine it is that is related to this goal, then it's much deeper and introspective in how I approach that goal, how I execute on trying to achieve that goal, and how I sustain that goal. Okay? So what good is it if an extrinsic goal is to try and get a promotion, but I'm not focusing on my health and well-being? At what cost? Extrinsic goals oftentimes create a situation in which we have to sacrifice our health and well-being to be able to achieve those extrinsic goals.
Like an example?
So for example, for the promotion at work, as I was saying, that might be that if I'm doing that without really thinking about why I'm doing that and unpacking my values around it, that means I get to spend less time with my family. That means I'm not going to invest any time exercising, because now what's the number one thing I hear CEOs and heads of companies saying when I ask them, how much exercise do you do? Oh, well, I don't really have time for exercise, because they are fueled by this extrinsic goal of trying to achieve something, but intrinsically they're dying inside because they're unhappy. They don't feel fulfilled. This is why we hear bankers, investment bankers, lawyers at the age of 35, 40, selling everything, resigning, and going and moving into some fishing village in Portugal, where they are just walking all day and living a very simple life, because then they have gotten closer to their intrinsic values and goals, right? So when you have, if you're setting yourself up, goals make us happier. Intrinsic goals make us happier than extrinsic goals. Even successful in extrinsic goals means they're a double-edged sword. They cost as much as they get you in happiness, right? The evidence shows that when people reflectively and mindfully get in touch with their values, they drop the stuff like weight loss, they drop the stuff like making more money or more possessions. Because what becomes more important to them is they realize, again, this is the committee telling me that I need to lose weight, or I need to get a promotion, or that I need to, look a certain way or be a certain way. Okay? But, Shali, I love meeting people who are slightly non-conformists. And I had one of those people on my team.
Okay.
And, we talk about career development with all the staff. And this particular team member, she was in her 30s, very successful, incredibly, talented and high performer. And every time I would ask her, I would say, so tell me what your plans are for movement. She would say, Dr. Shame, nothing. I'm absolutely happy where I am. So what do you mean? No, I have, right now with the responsibilities I have enough for my family. I get in my exercise. I like the time off that I have. In the next moves, I would have to sacrifice all of those things, and I don't want to do that. Really? Her colleagues would say. But what are you working towards? What do you mean what I'm working? I'm fulfilled. I'm feeling satisfied, because she was so in tuned and close to her values, intrinsic goals, that she didn't need to be persuaded by the cult of they for her to do more, be more, change more, transform. She's fine.
Oh, so good.
And for some people, that's okay. For other people, if for health reasons, you have to look at what's the reason you want to have a better lifestyle. Is it because you're not eating properly? Is it because, and we need to get to the root cause, Shali, of, you can't just say, I want to, lose some weight and have better eating habits. There may be deep-rooted issues associated with why you self-sabotage your efforts to lose weight. There may be biological deficiencies and biological sort of complications associated with why you're not able to control your appetite. It's so much more complicated than just making a promise on December 31st. I guess what I'm saying is intrinsic goals get you to dive a little bit deeper. And I want to read a quote to you by Ralph Emerson, Waldo Emerson, author. And he says, what lies behind us and what lies before us are but tiny matters compared to what lies within us.
Say it again, please.
So what lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us.
Oh.
Dive in introspectively. Forget about what happened in the past. Forget about what it is that you're focusing on tomorrow. Dive in a little bit and ask yourself, what am I doing? What do I want to do differently? What's standing in the way of me? Do I even need to change that? What's the motivation? What's the pull and the push towards that, right? So this idea of intrinsic versus extrinsic goals, if we ask in the comment box right now for people to write their New Year's resolutions, I would bet that the majority of the goals will be extrinsic goals. You know, and what we need to do is to focus on having more intrinsic goals. What are my values? Go back to your values, understand what your values are, and focus on what am I doing? What goals am I setting that are aligned with my values, that make sense to me and to my life and what I want to achieve in my life in terms of my passion and my purpose. Okay? Now, let's say you did this. Let's say you did this and you've got intrinsic and extrinsic goals that you want to work on. The problem with goals is, Shali, oftentimes they're very philosophical and they're like soap bubbles. They don't have any kind of structure or any kind of scaffolding around them. We say things like, oh, I just want to lose some weight. When? How much? How? With what system? What plan do you have in place? And I'm sure you've heard about SMART goals, right? Have you heard of SMART goals?
Briefly.
Okay. So goals, and this is traditionally in organizations as well as, you know, people's personal lives. If you read anything about goal setting and habit formation, we've been told for, you know, a couple of decades that goals need to be SMART. And what does SMART stand for? Okay. So SMART goals means, hold on one second. Let me make sure. When your goals are SMART, it means that they are specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, they're relevant, and they're timely. Okay, let me say them again. SMART. That means goals are specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, they're relevant, and they're timely.
Got it.
Okay, so let's take this idea of I want to, you know, I want to have a better lifestyle, sort of eating lifestyle and exercising lifestyle. Specific, what does that mean? I want to make sure that I have a certain amount of protein and vegetables in each of my meals. And I will cut down my carbohydrates 4 times a week and maybe allow myself to have carbohydrates 3 times a week.
That was very specific.
You know, let's say I want to exercise. You can't just say, I want to exercise more as a New Year's resolution. You need to say, from next Monday, every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, I'm going to go out and I'm going to jog for 45 minutes, or I'm going to walk briskly for 45 minutes. Okay? And while I do that, I'm going to listen to a podcast to make sure that I'm remaining excited and engaged in what I'm doing. Okay. So that's specific. It's measurable because we've said we're going to do it on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday for 45 minutes. So you've identified the time. It's achievable, yet it's going to challenge you. So you can't set goals that, I want to be a millionaire by next week. And unless you're, planning to win the lottery, that's not really an achievable goal. But you wanting to exercise more and getting exercise in on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, it's achievable, correct? Okay? It's relevant. That means when we say it's relevant, the goal should be aligned with your current values and your current priorities. It shouldn't be something like, I want to start a new business. Well, why? Because everybody else is starting new businesses? Is that relevant to you? Does it make sense to what you want to achieve in this new year? And then timely. Your goal should have a clear defined timeline, which means that within the next 3 months, this is what I'm going to set out to do. And I'm going to then reevaluate what I've achieved during this time and see what's going right, what could I do better, and then measure it at that date. So that our brain has a deadline that we're working towards, that it's not just open-ended. When the brain has, no kind of structure or scaffold of a new habit that we're trying to form, it just feels eternal and it feels without reward. The brain needs, we get a cue, okay, about what it is that we want to change. We get a craving, okay? So we get a cue. The cue is, I need to exercise more. Craving is, I need to, when I work out more, feel better about what I'm doing, right? Then we get a response that rise to want to change and do something. And then we get rewarded. Every time you run, every time you walk, every time you succeed in what you're trying to do, you start feeling better, you start looking better, and you reward yourself. One of the biggest reasons people don't do well with the goals that they set is because they're waiting for this magical, mystical motivation to come to them from the heaven above. No, motivation comes after you start.
Yes, remember we did that whole piece on the motivation, and people were saying, how do you find that motivation?
Exactly. It comes after you start experiencing the reward of that. So that's one approach, Shali. Smart goals. Make sure your goals are smart. Now I'm going to give you another one.
Okay.
Goals also have to be, you have to make a pact with your goals.
Okay.
When you make a pact with your goals, what am I saying? They need to be purposeful.
Okay.
Your goal should be meaningful to your long-term purpose in life. Okay? Something that you care about, something that it really is, again, aligns with your values, goes back to this intrinsic meaning. They should be actionable. They should be, you can put them into practice.
Okay.
They should be continuous, so they shouldn't be short term, and they should be trackable. Okay? So what do we mean by trackable? Means that you're able to, again, track your progress of how well you're doing within that goal. So let's say that again. When you make a pact with your goals, they're purposeful, they're actionable, they're continuous, and they're trackable.
Got it.
Okay? So, it's a little bit more complicated than just waking up on the first of January and saying, maybe I should exercise more. That's my New Year's resolution. Look.
Honestly, I was thinking about it as I was reflecting on this past year and looking forward to 2022 and doing what I have done pretty much every single year, like everybody else, setting the goals. And I was noticing that all the goals that I have, I've had for a really long time.
There you go. Exactly. if they're getting recycled, there's a problem here.
Yes.
There's an issue. And then also keep in mind that goals take time to get layered, right? Some goals are not achievable in the next few months or even a year. But remind yourself, make sure that in your plan of goal setting, if you want to start a new entrepreneurship project, there's so many steps you have to take before that particular goal. Let those be your first couple of goals rather than, I want my own company. There's other things that you have to do to get yourself ready for that. So this is the bulk of what I wanted to share. I'm happy to open the questions up, Shali June. Let's go back to that question you asked me earlier. I want to make sure I answer it properly. Do you remember what that was?
I'm opening them again because there is a little icon I have that allows people to ask questions.
Okay.
So let me see if I pop this up, what will happen. So this Parastushu says, will it help if we just set goals day by day instead of for a whole year?
Well, it depends what the goal is, right? And
Right.
this is, it very much depends on what it is. It depends on how many times you've tried to do it before. Why is it that it hasn't worked? Why is it that you're doing it? And you see, Shali and I talk about, we set up the general structure and framework of why this is important. But then you have to take this information, please, and try and apply it specifically to your life. If you can't do that, I would recommend you to have one-on-one sessions with a coach, with a psychologist, therapist. That can never replace these discussions or these seminars. I do those one-on-one sessions, but there's many people who are incredibly skilled at helping you achieve those specific goals that you have for yourself.
Okay, here's another question from Massa. What if I don't want to have goals? I just want to have baby steps every day with no big goals. Just stay as is. Is that okay?
Yeah. Fantastic, Massa. Do it. Celebrate you. Celebrate you, as long as it's not negatively impacting you, your family, the people around you. Just celebrate who you are and live your life. Absolutely.
Here's a question from SDGFA. I don't know how to say that, but could you please give some clues about how I love this they are advising. Often when we do the news, we get to commercial break and my co-anchor and I turn to each other because they say drink more wine. They say drink more coffee. Then the next day they say don't drink more coffee.
No, exactly.
And we turn to each other and we're like, who's they?
Who's they? Who's they? And they shift. Their opinion shifts. And so that's why it's very important. You have all the answers. Each of us, if you're in tuned to your body, to your mind, to your heart, and your soul, and if you're listening to the signs and signals of your body, there are some people who cannot touch alcohol. There are other people who have a different relationship with alcohol. So I cannot say that everyone in the world should consume 2 glasses of red wine and it's good for your heart. No, because that has changed from person to person. It depends if they have liver issues or not. It depends if they get migraines or not. So you really have to be in tuned to your body, do the little bit of data analysis and experiments and testing, and then decide what works for yourself rather than use what they say as a recommendation, not as the holy grail.
So many good questions that are coming up, Dr. Shaheen. Real quick, this one, Christine says, how do you define balance? Can you break it down to get a better understanding? Are the components mind, body, and soul?
So when it comes to balance of what exactly? So what are we talking about? Achieving balance in terms of, I'm not sure in what domain that they're referring to, but if we look at holistically, if we think about achieving balance, I want you to imagine that everything is on a continuum, okay? Whether we're looking at emotions, we're looking at performance, ambition. If you look at any values that we have, even empathy, okay? Even empathy. There is a functional side of this particular emotion, and then there's a dysfunctional side. In some assessments, they call it the balcony view, and they call it the basement view. So if you're empathetic and you have a balcony view, that means you're demonstrating a certain amount of empathy that's good for you and the people around you. But if your empathy is to the point in which you lose this balance and you're no longer in the middle of the continuum, you start putting other people's needs ahead of yours, and you forget about you, and that could be for reasons. Is it because you're desperately in the need of approval of others? Is it because you don't want to pay attention to yourself, and that's why you focus on other people? That when that balance gets thrown off, that's when it's dysfunctional. So again, balance depends in what domain we're talking about and referring to.
Harry says, if you fail on your goals soon after we started, how do you go back to that? That's a good question.
Bounce back, absolutely. So what you need to do is you need to, first of all, you know, there's no such thing as failing on our goals. It's about being.
Oh, I like that. Oh, I like that.
No, let's reword that. There's no such thing as failing on goals. It's not achieving them. But why have we not achieved them? Let's start from the beginning. Is it because they're extrinsic or not intrinsic? Is it because they're not well aligned with our values? Is it because they are not aligned with our passion and purpose? Is this goal more as a result of what they say we should do or as a result of what I want to do? Then, is it because it wasn't specific enough? Is it because you didn't, you know, they're not SMART goals? Is it because you didn't make a pact with them? And each time you try to achieve a goal, there's learning that comes out of that. And you take that learning and apply it to the next time. Let's do it again. So if you went through this whole checklist that I just went through right now, and you still think that this goal is important to you and you'd like to achieve it, let's go to looking at what did I do in the first rendition that didn't work, change that around, back to the drawing board, and let's try another strategy. Get back up again. You know that Japanese expression, fall 7 times, but get up 8. Very important. Resilience in goal setting is everything.
That was 2 really good ones back to back. You just dishing out these gold nuggets to us today on this first day of 2022, Dr. Shaib.
You see, I miss you. I miss you. I miss more than mine. I've been holding it in.
I tell you, I don't do drugs. I am drug free, and I am like on a life high right now with you. I just feel happy. I am inspired. I want to do the work. I hope people who come here with the paper and the pen, because I'm learning, like, you got to work at it. You got to work at it. These things just don't happen. You got to work at your friendships. You got to work at your relationships. You got to work on you, like with you.
Absolutely. And celebrate everything that you have achieved. Celebrate all the ways you have adapted. Celebrate all the ways you have said no this year. Celebrate all the boundaries that you have set. Celebrate the fact that you don't give a crap because someone is upset now that you have established a boundary with them.
Yes.
Finally,
yes.
You know, when we are in this threat anxious state, we're so much more real about what we want to say and do because we're tired, we're exhausted.
Yes.
You know, when we're exhausted, we don't rationalize and intellectualize. So celebrate how far we have come in the last 2 years together. And here, before we end,
Okay.
instead of setting New Year's resolutions, here are the questions I want people to ask themselves.
Okay.
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 So, and this is recorded, so they're going to have it. They don't need to write it down. Okay. Question number 1. What did you learn about yourself this year?
Oh, boy.
Both in terms of what delights you and what disappoints you.
Okay.
Okay. Question number, so let me give you an example. Someone wrote to me and said, I had learned two important lessons. Through gaining a deeper understanding about myself and my values, I learned that I need to put myself and my family first before all other obligations. When I wasn't doing this, I was unhappy at work and I was unhappy at home. And second, I need to manage and monitor my negative thinking. Dr. Shane, thank you for helping me realize how many negative thoughts I have every day, because that's what was stopping me from progressing or reaching my goals.
Oh, good one.
Right?
Okay.
Question number 2. How have you applied this understanding to adapt to other situations, people, and events around you? In other words, what new habits have you formed by gaining this understanding about yourself?
Okay.
Question number 3. What were the benefits of doing this? How did it make you feel? So whenever we correlate how something makes us feel to a particular event, it becomes stronger and more sustainable.
Okay.
So read about how it makes you feel. 4, with this knowledge, what would you like to do more of in 2022? And what would you like to do less of in 2022? Okay?
Okay.
So, forget about these like typical cliche, lose weight, perform more, and really dig in, introspective. And 5, the last one, how will this new mindset, this new thinking serve you and set you up to succeed for your short-term and long-term goals? 5. Now, I'm waiting for people to answer these questions and to direct message them to me and to send them, to post the answers, share the answers, help us get this information out there to people. Shali and I put our time and our energy to be able to raise awareness, to raise acceptance around these issues. We're here for you. Thank you for doing the work. And I can't wait for our next session already. Beautiful.
I could not have spent the first day of this year with a more beautiful soul. Thank you for spending time with us today. I feel inspired. I feel very full this morning, and I feel strong from this conversation. And I have a year ahead of me, and I got some work to do. We all got some work to do, Dr. Shaheen.
Let's join hands and do it together. Love you, Shali. Speak to you super soon. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, see, that's how you roll into 2022. You roll into 2022 doing the work, showing up and doing the work. Thank you to Dr. Shaheen. Let me just put her, I'll post this up for you, but I'm going to post her. I wonder if it'll let me do it right now, because I just turned on the comments and I know it has a little bit of a lag. But if anybody can post Dr. Shaheen's handle up here, if you have any questions or direct messages or anything about a future topic you'd like for us to do on More Than Mind, you message her. She's the professional. I'm just the girl with the camera that turns it on, that is very passionate about all these things and mental health. I read a quote the other day, and I don't know if Dr. Shaheen is still watching, but somebody said, and I saved it because I wanted to share it, that we take our kids to go to the doctor, and we take them to go to the dentist to check their teeth, and we take them to go get a haircut. And when was the last time we took our kids to check their mental health? When was the last time we took our kids? We take them to like Chuck E. Cheese, and we take them to Disneyland, and we take them to all these other places. But when was the last time we took our kids to check their mental health? You know, I'm a huge, huge advocate of taking care of every part of your body, but I feel like this part of it and this part of it so often gets missed. We don't see it, but we feel it, and it drives who we are every single day. And thank you to beautiful Dr. Shaheen, who's on the other side of the world right now, who shows up here every few weeks. We talk on a regular basis. Her and I are constantly messaging each other. We have a goal We have set a goal together in 2022, hoping that there will be a space that all of us will be able to be in one room to do the work. I love psychology, Rena. I love psychology. I love to be able to figure out what is going on up here and what is going on over here in our hearts. You think about it and all the challenges that she was just talking about, like in life, all of us, from the moment that we wake up to the sleepless nights when we're staring at the ceiling and we're figuring things out about why things are happening, all of it come from here and here. All of it do. So why aren't we spending the time to work on it? As somebody posted in the lesson that they learned in 2021, is that your mental health has more value than all the money that you have in the bank account. All the money that you have, all the things that you have. If you're not okay here and here, then what does that stuff mean? Does it have any meaning? So that's why her and I come here and show up on New Year's morning. And my eyes are a little bad because I stayed up a little bit late last night, but we showed up here because this is how you start the year. You start the year with a commitment to yourself, to love yourself, to find more about who you are. And just as she talked about, I can't tell you how many notes I took today. These light bulb moments that go on in 40 plus years. In one moment with Dr. Shahim here, there were some big things that just shifted for me. I don't know if they did with you today. Every year I sat down to write down my goals. And every year within a few weeks, those goals became dust. And then every year I felt like a failure. I'm not good enough. And in one conversation, sitting here and talking to her, next time I grab a piece of paper as I start 2022, I am really going to change the way that I look at setting these New Year's resolutions. Maybe it's time that we stop doing that and finding ways to celebrate the things that we did do and the things that we're going to do. Dr. Shahim, ashigata. I love you so much. Thank you for showing up here and doing the work. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to all of our beautiful friends who showed up here. I will post this up on my feed. I know it's a little bit longer, but if you can grab yourself, yes, I will save it. A cup of coffee, a cup of tea, sit down. Just like Dr. Shahim was saying, you're going to go on a walk. If your goal this year is to be more active and you want to move your body more and take care of your body, this is one of those podcasts. You just put your little ear in your ear and then go walking and you listen to this, and before you know it, 1 hour is over and you just got a good exercise in and you've moved your body for an hour and you have Dr. Shahim in your ear, helping you navigate your way through this crazy thing called life. What an incredible and wild 2 years it has been. I am looking forward to a magical 2022. I wish you so much happiness. I wish you so much health more than anything, so much love. And for all my Persian friends here, we are 2.5 years, or 2.5 months, don't say years. I need that Nowruz. I am counting towards that Nowruz. I know we celebrated a turn of the year, but that Nowruz that is coming our way, that spring that is coming our way, after this winter that we've been through, after the few years that we've been through, after the 2 years that our Nowruzes have looked so different, I am counting the moments to be able to say, Happy Nowruz, Eid Hameghi Mubarak, and hoping that this is going to be, no, I'm not going to even hope. We're going to do the work and make sure that this is going to be a better year. Okay? I love you all. Happy New Year. Have a wonderful day today with your family and your friends. And Dr. Shahim and I will let you know when we are going to come back with another session of More Than Mind. We will have them soon. Before I let you go, I do want to let you know, as you know, in 2022, I have a lot of goals, and the seeds that I was planting last year are all going to start sprouting in the next few months. And you know, where I go, you go. That's why I turn on this phone, is so that I take you with me. I'm going somewhere very special in a few weeks, and you're going to find that out very, very soon. Nowruz is coming, and there's so many things that are happening with that. Beri Zubipaz is going to be coming out very, very soon. We got a lot of good things coming your way. Happy New Year. Happy first day of 2022. Go do the work. Do the work. Have a wonderful year.